share with you a little bit of information about him. He's from Syria. He hasn't been here very long, but his English is great. He's making great progress. He's a fantastic student, very smart, very talkative. That's why this is good for him to keep doing this. And he has very modest goals. For example, he told me that he would like to be president of the United States. Normally, that would not be possible, but since he was born in the United States, that you may see him on the ballot someday. But he has some words, some advice, and some experience that he'd like to share with you. So, without further ado, Mr. Hany, Dahdal.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning. Good morning. As you know, I'm from Syria. I was born in Washington, D.C. 18 years ago. But I was brought back to my homeland when I was only 4 months. First of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to give me this opportunity to speak before you today. Okay, and I'm sure 100% you won't regret it. Before I take you through my Esol journey, I'd like to share with you a little bit about my past when I was in Syria. When I was in Syria, I was always top of my class. When I moved to Lebanon after the crisis in Syria, I had to complete high school there. Even though the program was different and everything was different, even the books, the language also that we study in the book, I was always still the top of my class. I used to be on the top all the time, but that would change when I entered the United States. Now I will share with you my Esol experience and how I learned to rise from a fall. You see, I started Esol when I was level 6. Later I moved on to level 7, where I failed more than once. I have never felt like this before. It's made me feel like a hopeless idiot. I failed once, twice, even twice. But fortunately for me, I fell forward. And for real, I learned new things each time I failed. And it was very useful for me. And I know many of you have failed Esol or maybe something else in your life. But how many of you have fallen forward and risen from his fall? Okay? And trust me, if you don't fail, you're not even trying. Now let me give you a real life example. Did you know that Thomas Edison conducted 1,000 failed experiments? As you know, he fell forward because the 1,001st was the light bulb. Even every failed experiment for him was one step closer to his success. That's how you explain why some people are able to achieve things that seem impossible. Because if you want to get something you never had, you had to do something you never done. And that's why we have to take risks. We've got to lose to know how to win. That's all. I'd like to finish up this speech. Sorry. I'd like to finish this speech by thanking our Esol program, and special thanks to my instructor, Professor Hany Marsh, and Ms. Celine Courage. and sorry, English one and the Quran, and I will conclude with a quote from an American writer and poet. Her name was Maya Angelou, and she said, "People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget what you heard, what you made them feel." So I hope my message has been received and my work affects you somehow.
That was fantastic. Thank you, Hany. Before I call the names,